Hey, Infidelity Love Lies fam. My heart's still doing this wild drum solo against my ribs, like full-on mosh pit in my chest, you know. It just ended right. The ink's barely dry, on the divorce papers feeling cold and thin in my hands, a stark contrast to the burning acid-like sensation in my gut. And the smell. That's what hit me first. Acrid, metallic. Like fear and old secrets clinging to the air, thick and nauseating, wrapping around me like a shroud. Then I saw it. The glint. On my pillow. A knife. Not just any knife, but the ornate silver letter opener Helen kept on her mahogany desk. Her precious heirloom from her distinguished lineage, polished to a menacing, almost predatory sheen. It lay there gleaming wickedly precisely centered on the crisp white of my pillow, and next to it, a single perfect white rose its pristine petals, just beginning to brown at the edges, a subtle, insidious decay that mirrored the rot which had silently, expertly taken root in my marriage. My breath hitched caught somewhere between my throat and my lungs, a gasp I couldn't quite release. This wasn't a warning. This wasn't a threat. This was a statement. A chilling, undeniable declaration of war, etched in silver and wilting white, delivered with a precision that hinted at a long-planned strategy. And I, Emily, 32 years old and completely blindsided, utterly naive, was finally waking up to the fact that my home was no sanctuary, but a brutal psychological battlefield, and the enemy was wearing my husband's mother's smile. The cold dread that slithered down my spine wasn't just a fleeting fear, it was the sickening, paralyzing certainty that my entire world, the one I'd meticulously built with Alex, the one I believed was founded on love and trust, and shared dreams, was about to explode into a million irreparable pieces. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a meticulously crafted prison, a gilded cage designed to break me, and the keys had just been handed with a triumphant flourish to the woman who hated me, the woman who was slowly, deliberately, systematically poisoning everything I touched, everything I loved, everything I was. Look, I'm Emily, 32 and still trying to piece together how I ended up here, how the woman I was just a few years ago could be so utterly clueless. If you told me back then that my life, which on paper looked like the absolute dream, would become a textbook case of psychological warfare, a masterclass in subtle manipulation, I would have laughed in your face. I mean, scoffed. Pitied the person who dared suggest such a ridiculous, over-the-top melodrama. But here we are, Alex, my husband. You picture it tall, perfectly coiffed, always in a sharp suit, a successful financier who practically printed money from a family with generations of old money and even older, more deeply entrenched expectations. The kind of guy who commanded a room, who turned heads everywhere he went. And yeah, for a while, for a glorious, blinding period, I was the girl on his arm, basking in that undeniable glow, riding that high, thinking I'd found my forever, my soulmate, my happily ever after. But underneath all that polished perfection, beneath the veneer of suburban bliss, a different, far more sinister drama was brewing. And it was all thanks to Helen, his mom, the architect of my slow, deliberate downfall. She moved in right after we got married. Health issues, she said. Vague, lingering things that required her to be closer to family. Just for a little while, dear, she'd coo her voice, pure silk, a soothing balm that masked a core of cold steel. But her eyes? Man. I completely missed it, then too, swept up in the whirlwind of newlywed bliss, again the polite, ingrained conventions of hosting family. That peculiar, almost predatory glint. What began as seemingly benevolent help quickly morphed into a full-blown invasion. Her shadow stretched across every corner of our apartment, her presence a constant low-frequency hum of disapproval that permeated the very air I breathed. Every decision I made, every choice, every small gesture of independence, she was there, a silent judge, a subtle critic. My modern art, brave dear, but a bit bold for Alex's refined taste, don't you think? She'd say with a dismissive flick of her perfectly manicured wrist. My dinner parties, which I poured my heart and soul into meticulously planning every detail, were deemed, darling, these are hardly up to the standard Alex is accustomed to, with thinly veiled hints that I simply lack the finesse required for their sophisticated palates. It was relentless. 1,000 tiny cuts designed to bleed me dry, to chip away at my spirit, one insidious remark at a time. I was living under a microscope, constantly scrutinized, constantly judged, always found lacking. My confidence, once a sturdy oak, a source of quiet strength, started to wither, stripped bare by endless subtle assaults of judgment and control. The vibrant, self-assured woman Alex had once fallen for was slowly, systematically being erased, fading into a shadow of her former self. Then came Luna, a tiny, fluffy whirlwind of a puppy, all boundless energy and innocent, unquestioning adoration. Helen's gift for the family, she'd announced, presenting the tiny creature with a flourish as if she were bestowing a royal decree. At the time, it felt sweet. A genuine gesture, a symbol of domestic bliss, a delightful addition to our nascent life, together a promise of shared future. I remember the immediate joy in Alex's eyes, the way Luna immediately snuggled into his lap, a small, warm bundle of fur. I showered Luna with love, treating her like the innocent, pure creature. She was a beacon of uncomplicated joy in a house that was becoming increasingly complicated, increasingly tense. But now I see it. With a chilling clarity that makes my stomach churn, makes me want to scream. Luna wasn't a genuine gift of affection. She was a prop, a carefully chosen pawn, an extension of Helen's ownership, her control, her desire to own every facet of Alex's life. And with Luna's arrival, the whispers intensified, gaining momentum, becoming more pointed, more frequent. Every spilled cup of coffee, every misplaced remote, every minor domestic mishap, no matter how trivial, was met with Helen's clipped, saccharine tone, her voice a chilling melody that echoed through the house like a haunting, inescapable refrain. A good wife would have handled this better. It was never a question. It was never a suggestion. It was always a judgment. Delivered with that same unsettling, perfectly innocent smile that promised warmth, but delivered nothing but ice, leaving me feeling colder than ever. Alex, bless his heart, tried to push back at first. He'd offer a weak, hesitant, "Mom, it's fine, really?" Or a strained, "Emily's doing her best." But Helen was a master. A true artist of psychological warfare. Slow, steady, insidious, corrosive, that constant drip, drip, drip of disapproval, that subtle, relentless implication that I was simply not enough, not worthy, not capable. I watched him change almost imperceptibly at first. His shoulders would stiffen when I reached for him, his hand no longer instinctively reaching for mine, a small but significant withdrawal. His eyes, once full of me, full of adoration and warmth, started to hold his mother's judgment, a subtle mirroring of her critical, calculating gaze. Those casual suggestions for me to adjust, to adapt, to understand their way, subtly morphed into undeniable demands for sacrifice. My career, which I had worked so incredibly hard to build, which had given me purpose and identity, outside of our marriage, became an inconvenience, a distraction from my duties. My friends, my support system, the people who knew the real me were subtly pushed away, their invitations met with vague excuses, their calls left unanswered. My own damn self, my personality, my passions, my very sense of being, it all started to erode under the relentless pressure to conform to their unspoken yet utterly demanding expectations. I was shrinking, becoming a ghost in my own life, desperately trying to contort myself into whatever perfect, silent, obedient, endlessly accommodating, good wife they so desperately wanted all, while feeling the last vestiges of my spirit slipping away like sand through clenched fingers, like smoke dissipating into thin air. Our home, once vibrant with laughter and shared dreams, became a place of suffocating silence punctuated only by Helen's passive-aggressive pronouncements and Alex's increasingly cold, distant demands. It was a slow death, a deliberate suffocation. Every argument felt less like a disagreement and more like a battle fought, blindfolded on shifting sands, always losing, always blamed, always made to feel inadequate. The love we once shared, it just withered, died, replaced by an empty ache, a hollow, echoing void that settled deep in my bones, a constant reminder of what was lost. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air, in a beautiful, gilded, suffocating cage. The day Luna vanished. The world just went grayscale, drained of all color, all hope, all joy. One ordinary morning, the house felt eerily, sickeningly empty. The usual joyful scramble of Luna greeting us for breakfast absent. Panic bloomed in my chest, a cold, blossoming dread that spread through my limbs, paralyzing me. We searched everywhere, every closet, every nook, every cranny, calling her name until our throats were raw, until my voice cracked with despair. And the cameras, our state-of-the-art security system installed by Alex himself, supposedly for our peace of mind, malfunctioned? Just like that. A convenient, perfectly timed blackout. No evidence, no footage. A perfect blank space where Luna should have been, where any trace of her disappearance might have been recorded. The police came, their faces etched with professional sympathy, their questions polite but ultimately fruitless. There were no leads, no paw prints to follow, nothing but the echoing emptiness of a space where a living, breathing creature should have been, a space that now felt utterly desolate. And then Alex hit me with it, his voice, flat, devoid of emotion, cold as ice. "You couldn't even take care of the only thing my mom loved." That line. It cut me deeper than any knife, sharper than Helen's letter opener. It was a vicious punch to the gut that left me gasping for air, clutching at my chest. It was a fresh wound, a gaping hole where my self-worth used to be, a gaping wound that bled guilt and shame, staining everything. I was a mess racked with guilt, convinced it was all my fault that I had failed. I was tormented by agonizing images of Luna lost and scared alone in the vastness of the city vulnerable. I replayed every single moment, every interaction, every decision, searching for an answer, a reason, a sign of what I'd done wrong. Had I left the gate open by a hair? Was I not careful enough during our walks? The self-blame was a relentless torture device, chipping away at my sanity, driving me to the brink. But the truth? Oh, the truth was far more twisted, more cruel, more cunning, more calculated than my self-blame could ever conjure. It wasn't random. It was the final perfectly executed move in their cruel game. A justification. A perfect, undeniable excuse for the inevitable. They had planned it all. The divorce, Alex's affair. Not some random hookup, not some momentary lapse in judgment, but a whole calculated thing with a young woman. Helen absolutely adored a woman whose surprise was everything I wasn't, subservient, eager to please, utterly unthreatening, easily molded. Luna's disappearance wasn't an accident. It was a meticulously orchestrated act, a cold, deliberate maneuver, the final nail in the coffin of a marriage they'd already decided to bury. A scapegoat. A convenient narrative to make me the bad guy, to rationalize their betrayal. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless, reeling, staring at the shattered, grotesque fragments of my life. My entire perception of my marriage, of Alex, of his mother, it twisted into this grotesque, unrecognizable caricature, a nightmare dressed in cashmere and designer suits. The years I had spent, the love I had given, the sacrifices I had made. All for nothing, all for a lie, an elaborate soul-crushing lie. The day before the final court hearing. The weight of it all was suffocating, a physical burden pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. I felt like I was walking through thick, viscous mud, each step, and monumental effort, my mind, a chaotic storm of anger, grief, and a chilling sense of emptiness that vibrated through every cell. I just needed to breathe. To escape that house, that tomb, of a life that felt less like a home and more like a prison of my own, making a tomb for my dreams, for my love, for my very self. And then I saw him. In the park, an old man, his face weathered by time, and etched with kindness, his steps slow and deliberate, walking a dog. My heart slammed against my ribs, a sudden frantic rhythm. No, it couldn't be. My mind immediately rejected the possibility. But as I drew closer, compelled by an invisible force, that distinctive white patch on her chest, the way her tail curled just so, the familiar, joyful bounce in her step, it was Luna. My Luna. Alive. A wave of raw, unadulterated emotion washed over me, so powerful it threatened to consume me. A surge of pure, unadulterated joy, quickly followed by a crushing wave of relief so profound it just crumpled me to the ground, my knees hitting the damp grass with a dull thud. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unchecked, blurring my vision as I scrambled towards her, scooping her into my arms, burying my face in her familiar, comforting fur, sobbing uncontrollably, the sound ripped from the deepest part of my soul. Luna, sensing my distress, licked away my tears, her warm tongue a tiny perfect comfort in the storm of my emotions, her tail wagging furiously, a beacon of unconditional love. The old man, startled by my sudden collapse, but utterly gentle, explained. He'd found her wandering, lost, and afraid months ago, a tiny trembling ball of fur, disoriented and hungry. He'd taken her in a lonely soul, finding solace in another, a quiet, profound companionship born of shared solitude. He spoke of her sweet nature, her playful antics, how she'd become his cherished companion, a bright spot in his solitary existence, his little shadow, his reason to get up each morning. As he spoke, his kind, gentle eyes mirroring my own overwhelming emotion, a horrifying, chilling realization dawned on me, spreading through my veins like ice. Every loss, every moment of agonizing pain, every shred of self-doubt I had endured, every single piece of my unraveling life, every teardrop shed, it wasn't random. It was meticulously orchestrated. Luna hadn't just wandered off. She had been given away, discarded, abandoned, left to fend for herself, just like me. The perfect setup. The perfect cruel ending to their carefully constructed charade, a final brutal blow designed to leave me utterly broken, compliant, and easy to dismiss. Alex and Helen hadn't just broken my heart, they had systematically dismantled my life piece by agonizing peace for their own selfish desires, their own twisted sense of order, their own convenience. The sheer monumental scale of their cruelty and manipulation hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless, reeling, unable to comprehend such calculated malice. My entire perception of my marriage of Alex of his mother, it twisted into this grotesque, unrecognizable caricature, a nightmare dressed in cashmere and designer suits, a horror story playing out in my own living room. The years I had spent, the love I had given, the sacrifices I had made. All for nothing. All for a lie. An elaborate, soul-crushing lie. Luna licked my face again, her soft fur brushing my cheek, her tail wagging a silent question. The urge to take her back to reclaim this one beautiful, innocent piece of my shattered life was overwhelming. To march into court tomorrow, Luna in my arms, living proof, and expose them for the monsters they truly were. To shout their betrayal from the rooftops, to prove their deceit, to reclaim what was rightfully mine, to demand justice. It was a fight, a desperate, visceral struggle within myself, a primal scream for vengeance that echoed in my bones. But what then? More pain, more bitterness, more entanglement in this toxic, suffocating web that had already consumed so much of me, leaving me hollowed out and exhausted. Would it truly bring me peace, or just prolong the agony, keep me tethered to a past that was nothing but a wound? I looked at the old man. His face was a map of gentle lines, his eyes radiating a quiet, unassuming love for this little dog. He had given Luna a home, a true home, a haven of genuine affection, a sanctuary when I couldn't. He deserved her. Luna deserved him. It was a choice that transcended mere justice, a choice for peace, for sanity, for a future unburdened by their poison, for healing. For both of us. My voice, though thick with unshed tears, though raw with emotion, was firm, resolute, born of a newfound strength I hadn't known I possessed. "She loves you," I whispered, burying my face in Luna's warm fur one last time, inhaling her comforting scent, trying to memorize the feel of her small, vibrant body in my arms, imprinting it on my soul. "She belongs with you." I handed her back carefully, gently. The warmth of her small body lingered on my hands, a bittersweet ghost, a tangible reminder of a love that was pure, but a painful farewell to a dream that was never truly mine, a dream built on shifting sand. It was a release, a painful yet profound act of surrender, a deliberate step away from the emotional battlefield, an unspoken declaration of my own freedom. I chose peace over vengeance, freedom over endless, pointless fighting. And in that moment, for the very first time in years, I felt a lightness, a sense of rightness, a quiet certainty that no court ruling, no act of retribution, no shouting match could ever provide. The path forward, though unseen, though daunting, felt clearer. Uncluttered by the debris of their manipulations, a nascent sense of hope stirring within me. The divorce papers are finalized. The signatures, the date, the cold, dry, impersonal legal jargon, it's done. The scratch of the pen across the page felt like the final tearing of a chapter, a definitive break. This city, which used to be my home, my sanctuary, now feels like a cage of memories, a haunted house I desperately need to escape. Every street corner, every cafe, every park bench holds a ghost of the life that was a meticulously constructed lie, a shadow of the woman I used to be. Every brick, every building, every face seemed to whisper of betrayal, of hidden currents beneath placid surfaces, of secrets festering in plain sight. I'm leaving, going somewhere new, somewhere the air doesn't taste of betrayal, somewhere the streets don't echo with ghosts, somewhere the past can finally lose its suffocating grip, its power over me. This isn't a retreat. This isn't me running away. This is a strategic advance, a deliberate, decisive move forward, a conscious act of self-preservation, a courageous choice to heal and rebuild from the ground up. I'm packing memories, yeah, but not just the bad ones. The hard-won lessons etched into my very being. The strength forged in that personal hell, a resilience I never knew I possessed. I'm leaving behind the bitterness, the corrosive pain, that constant whisper of not good enough that Helen so expertly drilled into me, that echo of worthlessness. Leaving behind Alex's distant, judgmental eyes and Helen's poisonous, chillingly sweet smile. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, that crushing weight, it's gone. It's lifted. The silence isn't oppressive anymore. It's vast, expansive, brimming with the raw, exhilarating promise of what's next. An empty canvas waiting for new strokes, new colors. I am free. Truly free. Not just from Alex or Helen, not just from the legal bonds, but from the suffocating version of myself I became under their insidious control. It's the freedom to breathe deeply, freely, fully, to choose my own path, to simply be without judgment, without manipulation, without the constant, exhausting need to prove my worth to anyone but myself, to pick up the pieces, not to frantically glue back together what was broken beyond repair, but to thoughtfully, carefully, patiently create something entirely new, something entirely mine. The road ahead is uncertain. Yeah, it's daunting. It's painted with the hues of new beginnings and untold possibilities, a blank map waiting to be drawn by my own hand. But for the very first time, I am holding the pen, tracing my own path, unburdened by the past. The future, once a source of dread and anxiety, now feels like an open horizon filled with the quiet hope of rediscovery, of reclaiming my own story. Hey, Infidelity Love Lies fam. So, yeah, that's my story. It's messy, it's painful, and honestly, I'm still figuring it out. Every day is a step, sometimes a stumble. But here's the thing, sometimes letting go isn't about giving up. It's about making space for something new, something real, something that actually serves you, that nourishes your soul, even if it feels like tearing off a part of yourself, like losing a limb. It's about finding freedom in the wreckage, about understanding that some doors need to be permanently slammed shut, with extreme prejudice, for new, better ones to open, for true light to enter. If you've ever been through a toxic relationship, felt controlled, manipulated, or just watched your spirit slowly, painstakingly erode under someone else's influence, I see you. I really do. Your story matters. What's one unexpected lesson you learned from walking away from something that was holding you back, that was hurting you? How did you begin to reclaim your freedom, step by painful, terrifying step? Drop your insights and experiences in the comments below. Let's create a space for healing, for shared strength, for the quiet, profound courage it takes to rebuild, to rise from the ashes. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Infidelity Love Lies for more stories like mine. Let's keep this conversation going. Your journey, your resilience, your hard-won wisdom might just be the light someone else desperately needs to find their own way out.